Welcome back to another episode of Blood and Guts Radio with Dorian Yates. Dorian, how's it going?
Hey, Robbie, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Well, how's things going in the UK, man?
It's going well. I'm busy. You know, we're setting up the nutrition company in the US and in the UK, and I'm working away at that. So we're gonna have some exciting news next month for everybody, and I will be in New York next month for the New York Pro Show and the Blood and Guts seminar I'm doing on May 23rd in Apollon Gym in New Jersey. So if anyone's in the New York area, I'm going to be at both of those shows if you want to come along and listen to the seminar or say hi to me at the Pro Show.
Well, that's great, Dorian, and definitely we'll have to put something up in the Muscular forums and get as many people over there as possible. So, you know, like I said, everybody who wants to meet Dorian Yates, he's going to the New York Pro, so be sure to pass by Dorian's booth and tell him hello. So, Dorian, the first podcast was a tremendous success. We have people lined up with lots of questions for you. So I know your time is valuable.
Bring them on, man. Bring them on.
So actually, the first question I have, how many times a week, Dorian, do you think someone should train legs for the best possible growth?
Well, you know, that varies a little bit depending on the individual, because weight training is a stress on the body, and you're looking for a reaction to that stress, which is muscle growth. So you have to put an unusual stress on your body, something it's not used to get that reaction, and then you have to allow enough time for your body to recover, to recuperate before the growth can take place. So if you're training too frequently, it's like you're constantly breaking yourself down, and all your energy is going into trying to recover from that, but you're not allowing enough time for growth. So it's essential that you leave enough time between workouts. How long that is going to vary from one person to another, depending on their makeup and their metabolism and various other factors. And just to give you an analogy, if you go out in the sun, and you lie out in the sun, that's the stress on your skin, and you get a reaction there. The skin produces more melanin, and you get a tan. And you know, some guys with darker skin tone, they can lie out in the sun all day and get a great tan and do it every day. And you know, pale faces like me from England, we can't do that. We get burnt. So I can't lie in the sun for too long, and I'll have to take long breaks in between. It's the same thing with your ability to recover from the stress of weight training. So it's going to vary. In my experience, it'll be somewhere in between 6 and even up to 10 days, which might seem a long time, but you've got to listen to your body. I had a guy today I was training, and he'd been training legs once a week, and then for some reason, due to work commitments or whatever, it just worked out he couldn't train that frequently, and he was training once every 9 days or something, and he was like, hey, you know, I'm getting stronger, you know, I was at a sticking point, but now I'm getting stronger. And I'm like, you're pretty much answering your own question. You know, you just needed more time to fully recover and compensate. So you got to listen to your body. I can't give an answer that would apply 100% to everybody. I can just give a guideline, and then you need to listen. If you're training correctly, you're training high intensity, you're pushing your body, and you feel you're not recovering or you're not progressing, then you need to, you know, experiment and try a little bit longer periods between your workouts. But it's generally going to be somewhere in between 6 and 9 days, I would say.
Well, Dorian, I'm looking at the June issue of MD right here, and I'm looking at your article, What Does Hardcore Really Mean? And I was surprised because me, you know, basically, you know, if someone says they don't squat, you know, everyone's, oh, you're a fucking pussy, and, you know, but I'm reading your article.
How it used to be when I came into the sport, you know, and when I came in, Tom Platz was like, you know, I mean, nobody had ever seen legs like that at that point. Actually, prior to that, you know, legs were not such a big deal. If you look back at the, you know, like the 70s and Arnold and those guys, there was no really tremendous leg development, and Tom Platz raised the bar, and you know, he was a great speaker, very enthusiastic and everything, and he just like, you know, you've got to do squats, and that's the key, and obviously that was the key for Tom Platz. And that's how it started with me in the gym. Everyone was at the power rack and squatting, and if you didn't squat, you're not even a real man, you know. That was the thing. But I got a few injuries, and I was almost forced to try something else. So I wasn't squatting. I was doing leg press, I was doing hacks and everything. And lo and behold, my leg development exploded. So squats were not a great quad exercise for me for various reasons. You know, it was just my build didn't suit it. And the same thing applies to bench press and various other exercises. They may work for some people, they may not work for you, depending on your structure. So yeah, you know, do what works for you. It's just the amount of effort you put into it, I think, that makes you hardcore, not necessarily the exercises. What's the point of doing an exercise that you're not getting the desired result from, you know?
Absolutely. So I have another question here about what is your opinion of fruit in a person's diet, both pre-competition and off-season?
Well, there's been some press about fruit being, slowing down fat loss and everything, and there may be something in that, but I think, you know, in the grand scheme of things, a small amount of fruit in your diet is not going to make a tremendous difference one way or another. In the off season, I always had some fruit in my diet, and pre-contest I would cut it back, but I would still have probably one a day. You know, if you're eating like as I was, 3,500, 4,000 calories, a couple of bananas a day, which is like 200 calories in that overall intake, and you know, amongst all the other different foods, to me, it's not going to make any difference. So huge amounts of fruit while you're trying to lose weight, probably not a great idea, but, you know, a small amount, I don't think is a problem.
Okay. And the next question I have is, what is your opinion of cardio in the off season? How much does the person need to do?
Yeah, it's useful, but you have to keep in mind what your goal are. If your goal is to gain muscle size and strength, that's the message that you need to be giving to your body. So your training has to be geared towards that. If you're doing a lot of cardio, it's going to interfere. Having said that, a small amount, like, you know, 25, 30 minutes, 3 times a week of moderate cardio, and I'm talking about like in the fat burning zone, maybe 120, 125 beats per minute. I think it can almost be beneficial because it's flushing blood around your system, oxygen, helps get rid of the waste products, and it's going to help your ability on squats and deadlifts and stuff like that. If you've got really poor cardio and you're doing these, you know, exercises to failure, squatting and leg pressing and deadlifts, huge muscle groups require a lot of oxygen. So if you're kind of unfit, it could be that you're not really getting to muscular failure, failing because your cardio system can't deliver. So a small amount of moderate cardio in the off season, I think it can be beneficial. But you know, if you're doing tremendous amounts of high intensity cardio, then that's great for your cardiovascular system, but it's going to interfere with your ability to build muscle.
When you did your cardio in the off season, how many days a week did you do?
I do 3 days a week, and I'll just do like 25 minutes on a cycle or like power walking and stuff like that.
Just out of curiosity, when you did your cardio, Dorian, did you combine it like after weight training, or did you do it completely separate?
No, I prefer to keep it totally separate. Actually, I usually do it on days when I wasn't in the gym doing weights. You know, getting ready for contest was a little bit different. I'd do more cardio, so I'd do it on the same day. But I'd do it at a separate time.
Okay. It's interesting. I don't know, Dorian, and actually in the same issue of MD, I wrote an article where researchers looked at the effects on, basically they're looking at gene expression of people that actually did cardio directly after weight training. And basically what they found, which is really interesting, was that they found somewhat of a blunted anabolic gene response when you combine cardio with weight training. So it kind of caused...
Yeah, I always advise people not to do cardio after their workout, if possible, because I think you put all that effort into breaking the muscle down, and now you need to let the body recover. You need to get the nutrition in there. You've sent the signal to the muscle, for muscle growth, and now you're going to confuse it by doing cardio, and also you're going to eat into that window of opportunity after training when you need to get the nutrition to recover. So, I'm not a scientist, but just instinctively and common sense wise, I always felt it wasn't a good idea to do cardio after training.
It's interesting, like 10 years. You're ahead of your times, Dorian.
In a way, you're a professional bodybuilder. You are kind of a scientist. You're in the gym is your lab. I've been in the gym for over 25 years. So, sometimes practical results tell you as much or more than, a scientific study can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that what you had said basically is what the scientists kind of summed up, was that basically, doing aerobics turns on certain genes, and then doing resistance exercise turns on a completely different set of genes.
Yeah, because you're asking your body for an adaptive response to the exercise. So you're giving it one signal with the weight training, and then another signal with the cardio.
Absolutely. Well, Dorian, the next question I have is that we're asking about weak body parts. And if someone's got a weak body part and they're following HIIT routine, if they need to bring up this body part, do they actually add more volume or more frequency? What would you recommend for a weak body part?
Well, adding more volume is not the answer, and training more frequently is not the answer, because, you need to train intensely and you need to have enough recovery. So, let's say, as we were discussing before, let's say you need 8 days for your legs to recover. You've discovered that. I mean, what's the point of doing them every 4 days? You're certainly not going to get any growth out of that, because you're not going to recover. So what do? You need to prioritize that muscle group in terms of intensity, and de-emphasize other muscle groups. So in other words, you need to, that body part, you need to train it when you're mentally and physically fresh. So you need to do it at the start of your workout. You need to do it perhaps on a day after you've had a full day's rest. And you'll use techniques to increase the intensity of the sets that you're doing and take them beyond failure. You can use force reps. You can use extra negatives. One of the things I used to do on the power exercise, like the pressing and stuff like that, I would obviously after warming up and going through that whole process, once I got to a max set, I'd choose a weight that I could only do like 3 or 4 reps with, pretty much to failure, and then I'll put the weight down. I'd rest like 10 or 12 seconds, take it again. I probably could do 1 or 2 more, rest, put it back again, rest another 10 seconds. Maybe I could squeeze out 1 or maybe 2 more. So what you got there is almost like a set of 8 reps, with some rest pauses in there, which means within that set of 8 reps, I was going to muscular failure 3 times, and I was handling a load that my body wasn't used to. So that's one of the ways to increase intensity. But you've got to be careful with high intensity techniques. You can't use them on every exercise in every workout. It'll just be way too much for your nervous system. So that's why you've got to be selective and use them on a body part that you think's weak. And the whole key to this process starts with your mind. Mentally, you have to recognize, okay, my whatever calves, back, whatever it is weak, and then you spend time thinking about that muscle, how it functions. Prepare yourself mentally before you go to the gym. Imagine the muscle stretching, contracting, and that kind of stuff. I remember when I did my first night of champions and I got second place to Mohammed Benaziza, and I asked the judges what they thought, why this guy beat me, and I look at the pictures and everything, and his back just freaked me out. His back was like that thick, it looked like 3-dimensional, and my back at the time was good, it was good, good wide lats and everything, but it didn't have that thickness. So I became like, almost mentally obsessed with that. I had a picture of him on my fridge at home. I had a picture in the gym, and I was just thinking about this all the time and how I could achieve that. And that it's almost like mentally you can will it as well, and it increases your focus when you're training. So that's the key. Increase the intensity. Don't increase the frequency or the volume. That just doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, to keep things in balance, put less emphasis on your stronger body parts. So, train them maybe to failure or just short of failure. And, for instance, my calves were always very strong. So I'd do them after I'd done quads, after I'd done hamstrings. So, at that point you're pretty exhausted, both physically and mentally. So, but it didn't really matter because I didn't need to emphasize my calves. So that's one of the keys as well. And it's always a little bit tempting if you've got a body part that's very responsive to like hammer the hell out of it, and because it's enjoyable and you're strong and you're getting a great response, but then you just get further imbalanced. So it's a combination of emphasizing the weaker body part with intensity and de-emphasizing the stronger body parts, both mentally and physically.
Okay. The next question I have is regarding your underhand grip on the barbell row. And a person wanted to know if they thought that you thought that was the reason why you had your bicep tear.
Well, that was the exercise that I tore my bicep on. It wasn't necessarily the fault of the exercise, but I did that, I think it was like 6 weeks before the 94 Olympia. And one of the things that I've spoke about in the past and I feel was something that I would change if I could have done now with hindsight was getting ready for a contest. Because your calorie intake's lower, your body fat's low, you may be slightly dehydrated, you're definitely going to be slightly exhausted, because when your calorie level is low, you don't sleep well because your blood sugar gets low at night and your body just wakes itself up because it's like, an emergency thing. It's telling you to eat. So, when you're getting ready for a contest, you're going against every instinct and every signal that your body is giving you. Your body thinks it's starving, so it's not happy. You don't sleep well, so you're more exhausted and so on. So you become more susceptible to getting injured. And I always used to walk that on that red line, whereas it probably would have been better for me to back off on the intensity a little bit and the weights the last couple of months before a contest, because in any case, you're not going to build any more muscle at that point. You're just trying to hold on to as much as you can. So it's not really necessary to train in that way. I'm not telling people to start doing light weights and high reps or anything. Of course, you've got to maintain as much as you can, but I would definitely back off the last couple of months. After I tore my bicep, and I got back into training, I did change my grip just to avoid the possibility of re-injuring it and everything. But I think as long as you're training carefully and you're not risking it too much in that situation where you're depleting everything before a contest, is still a very good exercise for your mid and lower lats.
The next question I have, Dorian, is that regarding the high intensity training principles you have, did you ever rotate that, or like for example, take some time off and maybe just do high volume for a few weeks, or was it just high intensity?
I did. Perhaps not as much as I should have done, but I definitely fell into a pattern. When I was younger, I would like every workout in the gym, every day, every week was like, I was psyched up as if it was like the only workout I was ever going to do. And that's how I approached it. I approached it like this was a powerlifting championship. It was like my life depending on it. That was my mentality. And what would happen is I would get overtrained after. It kind of fell into a pattern. Months I would get sick. I would get a sore throat or a cold or something like that. Just because I was so overtrained and my immune system was getting weak, and that's what I worked out, and I can pretty much work that out myself in the end. So what I found is this kind of training is it's great. You get a lot of results, but you can't do it constantly all the time. You probably do. I felt I would train this manner for 5 or 6 weeks, where I was pushing it and I was constantly going up, getting a couple more reps, getting more weight, going up, going up, going up. But it gets to a point where you're going to burn out. So 5 or 6 weeks was the maximum time, and that's what I would recommend. And then I would train lighter for 2 or 3 weeks. I would back off a little bit. So it's like you're going up 3 steps and then taking 1 step down, and then after a couple of weeks start pushing again and go up 3 steps. So you're going up to a peak, go down a little bit, and then the next peak is higher than the one before. That's the way it works out. So no, you can't do it all the time. I wouldn't recommend it, and you just can't do it. Your body's going to break down. You're going to get overtrained, which means you're not going to gain. You might start losing muscle, or immune system is going to break down, and you're going to get a cold. You're going to get sick. So yeah, 5 or 6 weeks would probably be the maximum. Then you're going to take 2 or 3 weeks where you're training lighter, and it's also good, I think, to take a complete week off from the gym and let your body and mind recover every few months.
I think it's important, and I think that's something that most bodybuilders they just can't do it. They can't take a week off because I think just they're so addicted to the pump and how it makes you feel that taking off is hell.
Yeah, well, it's just like keep in mind, why are you going to the gym? You're going there to get results. That's what you're going for there. At least I would have thought that's why you're going there. I mean, I don't go there to socialize and stuff. I go there to get results. Of course, I'm friendly and chat with people afterwards and everything, but I can think of better places to go socialize, So I'm going there for a result. So if it's better for my results that I take a week off, then I would take a week off.
You mentioned, getting psyched up for a lift. And, I was talking to this powerlifter a few weeks ago, and he said that, most powerlifters, they try and preserve that moment where you get really psyched up, because they said that if you try and do that too often, you can really just fry out your nervous system. Have you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But there's getting psyched up, which is the immediate thing before you do the set, But what I used to do was maybe it's not psyching up, it was like mentally rehearsing. I would mentally rehearse before I went to the gym. I would go through all the exercises I'm going to do. I would know how many reps that I was aiming for, because I know how many I did last time and I want to get one more. So I would mentally rehearse. I would go through in my mind in the workout. I would imagine the exercises. I would imagine how it's going to feel. And so when I got to the gym, I knew exactly which exercises I'm going to do, in which order. I knew what my goals were as far as like trying to beat the last workout and so on. I'm mentally rehearsed when I go to the gym, and it's just like replaying a videotape when I got to the gym. So the only time I would really be psyching up was just immediately before the lift. But I think it's important to mentally rehearse. Don't go to the gym and without knowing what your goals are and what you're doing.
You had mentioned something that's actually one of my pet peeves, is that, I have training journals that go back for 10 years, and I just don't see guys, writing down what they do. And
well, I've got every workout that I ever did back to 1983. I've got them all written down. I've got every diet I did and everything, and I think it's very important. I was speaking to another professional once years ago, and he was asking my advice and everything, and I was like, man, that show that you did last year was like, you're in amazing condition and everything. Why don't you just do what you did then? And he's like, well, because I don't know what I did. I don't remember now. Or the guy that trained me, I fell out with him, and it's the same thing getting ready for a contest. If you write down everything you do every time, then you're going to find what works, what doesn't work, and eventually you're going to get a game plan that's pretty down,
No, I agree. And, one thing that I always try to do when I go to the gym is that, try and beat that record that I had from last week. And if you're not counting your sets and your reps, who the hell knows what you did last week? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's important to have goals. And without knowing what you did last month, how can you set yourself a goal for this month? That's what I used to do. I used to have short-term goals, which were like pretty much on a monthly basis, and then a long-term goal, which for the year or whatever, which would obviously be the contest and what weight I wanted and everything for a contest. But every month I would write down the basic exercise, you know, incline press, bend over row, squat, whatever. And okay, I'm squatting 300 pounds for 10 reps. Next month I want to be doing 320 for 10 reps. And, you know, trying to keep your goals achievable, but, you know, a little steps. But if you put, like, you know, if you put 10 pounds on your squat every month throughout the year, at the end of the year, that's 120 pounds you put on your squat. You know, that's pretty impressive gains. But every journey is made up of small steps. If you just have unrealistic goals, like it's like standing at the bottom of a mountain and looking up and saying, "Well, I'm going to climb to the top." It's just so far away and so daunting that it's never going to happen. Just aim to climb to the first ledge. You know, when you get to the first ledge, aim to climb to the second one, and do it like that. Do one step at a time, and then that big goal becomes achievable.
No, and I think it's very interesting that you had mentioned that you had just everything was already pre-planned. And just most guys, you know, they go to the gym and, oh, I'm doing chest today. And like, well, what are you doing? Well, you know, maybe I'll do some incline barbell. And they just, nothing's organized, you know. And
yeah, and then there's theory. It's called the 12 to 18 month theory. That's what I call it. It's like people that do weight training usually progress for 12 to 18 months and don't really progress much after that. Even if they're training for 15, 20 years, they don't really progress much after that, because when you first start training, your body's going to respond anyway, even if you're a haphazard routine with no goals and training's not planned properly and everything. It's all new to your body. It's a new stress, not used to it, right? But after that point, you know, it gets harder and harder, and you need to get smarter about your training, smarter about your nutrition, and all these things, setting goals and planning your training. That's getting, you know, that's allowing you to squeeze the most juice out of the fruit, or so to speak, you know.
Absolutely.
And check it out. Look at the guys in your gym. Go look back next year. Have they changed? Most people don't, you know. They're just going to look the same next year and the year after and so on.
Absolutely. Well, here's something interesting. Someone's actually wanted your opinion on repetition speed, and they were wondering whether, you know, they should actually use lighter weight and maybe use more of a slow contraction and put more tension in a muscle, or should they maybe use more weight and focus more of an explosive type of lift?
I think you should lift the weight, you know, at least on the positive of the lifting of the weight. You know, you can lift it as fast as you want, as long as you're not using momentum to lift it, as long as you're using muscle power to lift it. You know, you're not bouncing, you're not swinging, you're using muscle power. On the negative phase of the rep, because your muscle is like 30-40% stronger on the negative rep, I slow it down then to emphasize that part of the rep, just to put more stress on it, you know. So I do the positive fairly explosively, but when I say explosively, it's muscle contraction. There's no bounce, there's no swing, and most pros, I always read the pros' articles and stuff over the years. Everyone says they use good form, but to me, I've seen guys train. I don't call that good form. They're all swinging the weights all over the place and shortening the movements and everything. So I don't feel that they're getting the most out of it. Most people, you need to do. You know, you can try and move the weight as fast as you can on the positive, as long as you're not swinging it, and slow the negative down. But concentrate on the muscle. The weight's just a tool, you know, to put stress on the working muscle. Try to minimize the outside forces, you know, swinging other muscle groups that you're trying to focus on at the time. It's almost like a bodybuilding is opposite to powerlifting. A powerlifter wants to get the weight from A to B. A bodybuilder wants to put as much stress on the muscle and make that lift as hard as possible.
Absolutely. Well, Dorian, the next question I have is actually very interesting. So they said that if you could do it all over again, what would you change and what would you avoid and what would you stick to?
The main thing that I would change would be I would be more careful getting ready for a contest as far as the intensity and everything. In the off season, it was fine when I was eating and everything, and was more hydrated and more sleep and everything like that. The main thing with with my career that hampered me was the couple of serious injuries I had, and they were both right before a contest because I was still training in that fashion, as if I was trying to build muscle without giving the body, the necessary nutrition and rest and everything. At that point, the emphasis should shift to maintaining muscle. And maintaining muscle is a lot easier than building muscle. You don't need to push to that extent. So probably that's the main thing, I guess.
I mean, do you think that, like, for example, like Ronnie Coleman, he had a couple of injuries, but then he always trained heavy right up to his competition, and it seemed like you had similar philosophies, correct?
Yeah, but Ronnie's Ronnie's form is a lot looser, to say the least. But people that are used to training in that manner, I think their tendons and so on get stronger because of swinging the weights around, and it puts a lot of stress on the tendons as well. Where the way I was doing it was just trying to focus on the muscle. But yeah, if you keep pushing like that all the time, then especially getting ready for a contest, then you are risking getting injured. And even the ability to get injured is probably somewhat genetic. Some people just get away with stuff that other people can't.
And Dorian, I have your last question here. And the guy was asking about, he wants to put on as much size as possible, but he wants to keep his waistline down. He was wondering about doing heavy squats and deadlifts. Do you think that this is going to thicken his waist?
Yeah, it can do, because if squatting and deadlifting puts quite a bit of stress on your abdominal wall and your obliques. My obliques tend to grow really easy, and when I stopped squatting the free weight squats, not only did my quads get better, that I was able to minimize the size of my obliques and so on as well. So that worked for me. I mean, if you got your obliques don't grow, it's genetic, But yes, I think squatting and deadlifts can thicken your waist because they will build muscle. Those muscles are under stress and they'll grow, So bodybuilding is about growing everything as big as you can. Some areas like your waist you want to minimize, especially if there's a tendency to build muscle there easily. So if you do, then it might be an idea to avoid those exercises,
Right.
And yes, you can build a great physique, and yes, you can build great legs without squats. I'm known as a hardcore bodybuilder, so that might fly in the face of the so-called hardcore philosophy, but that's just the way it is. I didn't do any free weight squats pretty much since my amateur days. I do them now because I do them for overall strength and conditioning and fun.
Well, for all the MD listeners, be sure to check out Dorian's article in the June issue of MD, and it's great. And the thing I like about it the most is that basically, you talk about, I use machines, and that basically you went against all the common, myths as what really makes a person truly hardcore. But in your article, you're talking about, I used a lot of machines, I use hammer machines, and look at how well I did in my career. So it's a great.
I'll do whatever works, Hardcore is just about, putting the effort in. The particular exercise you're doing doesn't make you hardcore or not hardcore,
Well, Dorian, we have to talk a little bit about, we had just talked a little bit earlier about what made Blood and Guts video so unique. And could you talk a little bit when you said that, when you came out with Blood and Guts, you wanted to make it different from all the traditional bodybuilding videos. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started in the sport as a fan initially. We all do, right? Everybody does. And I was very disappointed by the videos that were available. I watched them, and I wasn't inspired. The same thing with a lot of photography. So when I came to make mine, I wanted to let people see how I really trained, and hopefully inspire them. So I got a guy to come into the gym and just asked him to film me as best as he could. The problem was that other guys that would get professional production companies, and those guys want to do it from their point of view, where they don't want to get the right angle, the right lighting, and they want you to do one take and do another take, and you're doing leg presses with 1,500 pounds or 600 pound squats or something, you're not going to be able to do a second take realistically. So I just wanted to get in there and film me like a fly on the wall. I didn't even want to know he was there. So those are my genuine workouts, and that's how I work. That's how I trained day in, day out, all year round. Every workout was like that. There was nothing special for the camera, and I was pleased with the feedback. Actually, a lot of people ask me why we filmed it in black and white as opposed to color. We didn't film it in black and white. We filmed it in color. And then when I was watching it, I was like, something's wrong here. This looks too shiny and bright, and it's too much color. Can you just turn the color off, see what happens? And we turned the color off, and it had that, the black and white thing, and somehow it makes it more real, And it reminded me of the boxing film with Robert De Niro and the Raging Bull and stuff like that. So that's why we had it in black and white,
Well, I'm laughing because I'm looking at the side column by Ron Harris, and he had talked about how you had just done a set of lat pull downs with an underhand grip of 300 pounds. You hit a 45-pound on it, and they asked you if you could do another set because they didn't have the right camera angle. And you said,
you try and do another set, buddy. Yeah, you like it,
You said, that's not how I train. You're not going to fucking ruin my workout.
Yeah, they wanted to film a real workout, so I was doing a real workout. That's how I do it,
The other thing the articles talked about, and I thought was really interesting, was that, they wanted you to be tanned, and they just wanted you to have this traditional California, bodybuilding look. But you're like, I'm here to train, man. I'm not here to, to please anybody. This is how I train, and this is how I want it filmed.
Yeah, I wanted people to see the real thing, and I was proved to be right because the feedback I got was tremendous, and I think it changed the way they did photography in the magazines and the DVDs and everything. Now Ronnie's DVDs, you see the guy really working out with his huge weights, and that's inspiring for people. And the same thing with the photography. Before they wanted you to like pose and they wanted to ask me to wear sunglasses and all this shit, and spray you with water to make it look like you're sweating. Well, how about I just do a real workout and I'll really be sweating, And don't worry about the technical aspects such as the angle and the lighting and stuff. People don't care about that. They want to see the effort, They want to see the veins popping out your neck, and they want to see the huge weights because that's inspiring. It inspires them to go to the gym and do the best that they can do,
And Dorian, you have to mention the Valio belt scene. I think that's classic. We have to talk about that as well.
I don't know. I mean, I've been asked to do a lot of things. Wearing sunglasses was funny. And wearing the Valio, they wanted me to wear the Valio belt in the workout and everything. And, I don't work out in the sunglasses and the Valio belt. So, that didn't happen. But I think everyone was still happy with the photos, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So all the MD listeners, you have to check out Dorian's article. It's great. And so we're running out of time, and this completes episode 2 of Blood and Guts Radio. Dorian's going to be making these radio appearances every 2 weeks. So again, for all the questions you have for Dorian, post them in the Q&A section under the MD Staff and Pros for Dorian Yates, and we'll have Dorian answer these questions live on the radio. Dorian, I appreciate you coming back on the show, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Pleasure always, and guys, just keep writing in with your questions, and obviously we can't answer all of them, but I'll do my best,